Good afternoon again. Good afternoon again. Welcome to the AB 617 Southside Air Quality Steering Committee. I want to thank everyone for coming out. It is officially 6:10 and 50 seconds. So we are going to get this meeting started. Thank you so much for everyone for coming out tonight.
Good, the roll call now? No, right? And we will now allow for our interpreter to provide some information.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina, here with my partner Claudia. We're gonna be the interpreters, so we have two more on Zoom this evening. So we will be asking you to please remember to speak clearly and speak up into the microphone so that everyone on Zoom is able to hear everyone speaking, and I'll be providing those instructions in Spanish now. Thank you. Hola, buenas tardes. Yo soy Cristina. Estoy aquí con mi colega Claudia. Tenemos nuestros intérpretes en Zoom, aquí Tania, que van a estar proveyendo interpretación simultánea esta tarde. Les pedimos de que si están conectados a una computadora o tableta, que si ven el icono del mundo en la parte inferior de su pantalla, a decir interpretación, seleccionen español y luego den clic a silenciar audio original. Lo mismo se va a hacer en el teléfono, tablet o iPad. Van a ver 3 puntos en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Seleccionen interpretación en español y luego silenciar su audio original y luego hacerle done o finalizado y habrá completado la configuración de interpretación al Zoom. Gracias.
Thank you. I am Nicholas Stans. I'll be a facilitator today with my co-facilitator Britta. We want to go ahead and review some of the in-person reminders and logistics. Next slide. This is just some information related to what was just shared from the interpreter. So if you want to read that, go ahead. Just want to make sure that everyone remembers the logistics of our meeting. We will have preference or priority given to those who are in person, but we will have time for those virtual for all of our relevant segments. So if you are virtual, please raise your hand. There are instructions on how to do that. If you're on the phone, you can raise your hand using *6, and we will be able to get to you in the order that you raised your hand. And that will always follow the in-person questions and comments. So just make sure everyone's understanding. So again, steering committees will go first for those in person, then we'll shift to those online. Then go to public and for in-person, and then public for online. Next slide. For the logistics, here's a quick slide to help you understand what we just shared about *6, but also some information about raising your hand. If you have any questions related to that, you can also put it into the chat. You can also feel free to have any comments or questions put in this chat if you do not want to speak, and we will make sure to verbalize those for the record. And we will make sure we cover all of those comments. Just a reminder, everyone, that we do still have our code of conduct. We're not going to go through line by line, but in general, we're looking to have a respectful conversation, talking about the topics and not towards each other, and making sure that we edify. So please only speak to others as you would like others to speak to you. Per usual, we have a lot to cover in a short period of time, so I will be the annoying person trying to keep us on time. Please note that that's just out of respect for everyone's, the public and the committee's members' time. And so let's make sure that we try to stick to the agenda as it is shown. And with that, we are now ready for a roll call, colleagues.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Roberto Rizzo. I'm one of the colleagues here. Let's go ahead and get it started. So I have Bishop Chris Baker here. Vincent Valdez. Stephanie Williams. Tito. Jamala. Serena Rodriguez. Reina Moreno. Richard Falcone.
Here.
Richard Lincoln. Ward Winchell.
Present.
Barry Boyd.
Here.
Here. Morgan Brown.
Present.
Lori Walker. Roberto, present. James Allison.
Here.
Hi, welcome, James. Arturo Arroyo.
Present.
Fantastic. Thank you, Arturo. We also have members of the SAC Metro Area District staff here with us today. Members of, if you can please raise your hand, members of the district. Fantastic. Thank you. We also have a card, I believe so. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. We have special guests, the city of Oak Grove, the city of Sacramento, and the even more special guests, the community members that joined us today. So thank you, everybody, for being here. We're gonna go ahead and get started. You guys take it over. Is it you, Janice, who's next?
Before we dive in, just want to confirm that there are 7 committee members here. That is quorum. There are 10 total, but there are 3 alternates. So I just want to confirm that we do have quorum.
Thank you, thank you. Hey, we have a few admin items coming up. Rita or Nick, do you guys take care of those, or is that a?
Thank you for the question. So in terms of administrative items, so one of you two, the co-leads, will ask for a motion to approve the January and both of the February meeting summaries. This is a reminder for everyone. I'm just gonna walk through the whole process. So after one of you asks for a motion, another steering committee member will give a second. And then we can ask for public comments, and then there will be a vote.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Then I would motion to approve the meeting summaries for January and February. Okay, Jamal is second. Then do we go for a vote? Okay, fantastic. Bishop, Chris Baker.
Yeah.
Okay, Vincent Valdez, out. Stephanie Williams, out. Jamala. Richard Falcone,
Yes.
Ward Winchell,
Yes.
Barry Boyd. Larry Boyd,
Sorry about that. I couldn't get to my mic button. Yes.
thank you, very, Morgan Brown,
Yeah.
Lori Walker. Roberto Rizzo, yes. James Allison,
Yes.
Arturo Arroyo,
Yes.
thank you. Did I miss anybody? Okay, great.
Just a note about voting and the alternates is the alternates should only vote if their member that they're representing is not voting. That way you're not having 2 votes.
Great, so in this case, it's Richard and Arturo together, and you get to vote. Okay,
And just another note would be if anyone wasn't present those meetings, it is a standard practice to abstain.
thank you for that, Richard. Okay, cool. The motion passes. What's next?
Yeah, motion passes. You have the exact count, but we'll make sure to note that.
I did just want to bring up one, meeting practice that we have started doing that we haven't been doing recently, but just so that way we can get in the process and state of, seamlessly doing things. Once again, you have your name tags. If in fact you do have a comment, if we can get back in the practice of putting our name tags up, so that way it's not cumbersome or feeling, as if people aren't being listened to if you're trying to raise your hand, as well as our flags for our votes. If we can kind of get back into the practice of using these items that our air district has taken the time to make for us.
And just before we dive too much into the administrative items, we did want to leave a little time for the public to share if there's any community events that they would like to speak to. Is anyone in person from the public that would like to speak of any community events? Seeing none, online, please raise your hand or otherwise indicate if there's any public or community events that you would like to promote. And you can also drop it in the chat. Seeing, was that a hand raise by Faye? Yes, would you like to go? Please go ahead and unmute yourself. You may still be muted. Maybe having technical difficulty with the sound on our end. And you look like you still may be muted. Would you mind putting your comment in the chat? Right, we will move forward, but the technical issue is resolved. We will come back for that item.
Nick?
Yes, go ahead, sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Morgan Brown. I did want to announce one community event that is coming up on the 29th of March, this upcoming Saturday. We will be doing Code Block along with Act on Kindness. We'll be doing a free giveaway. What this is pretty much is a yard sale that everything is free. It will be hosted at Freedom Park in North Highlands. So if you have donations you want to bring out, or if you want to just come and shop for some possible treasures that maybe somebody else's quote unquote trash. It is a free event. We'll have resource providers out there as well. It'll be from 11 to 2 at Freedom Park in North Highlands.
Perfect, and sorry for us being a little out of order here. Just wanted to confirm if there was any public comments related to the meeting summaries. You also would have a chance to make that known before the official vote is tallied in person, whether any public comments related to the meeting summary. Seeing none online. Seeing none, and then we also just want to track back that there's technically a steering committee discussion as for that as well. So if there's any steering committee members who'd like to make comment on the meeting minutes. Person, seeing none, online, seeing none, then we can go on to the agenda item 3 or action items. And
Good evening, everyone. Janice Lime Snyder with the Air District. So today our main topic is going to be about developing some goals and outcomes for the CERC report. And so I'm going to go through a few slides on what.
apologies, we did have a comment come for an event, so
Oh, okay.
we should just read that for the record real fast.
All right, yes, thank you, Faye, for putting that in the chat. Faye wants to invite everyone to the Sacramento Poor People's Campaign, SAC-PPC, the Red, Green, and Black Environmental Justice Coalition, or RBG-EJC, Sacramento Climate Coalition, or SCC, and NorCal Resist are hosting a 2025 Earth Day virtual celebration, noting that Earth Day is an annual holiday celebrating environmental protection, and that it was first celebrated on April 22nd, 1970. Their joint event will be on Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, from 6 to 8:30 p.m., featuring, and apologies if I mispronounce this, Dr. Sigrid Jeniska Aseko, BS, MPA, MA, and PhD, Assistant Professor, Environmental Studies Department, College of SS and IS Academic Affairs, California State University, Sacramento State. Dr. Aseko is an environmental epidemiologist whose research focuses broadly on environmental health literacy, exposure assessment, and epidemiology with applications mostly to air pollution, so definitely relevant to this group. The virtual Earth Day event will feature speakers, music, resource lists, and breakout rooms. And they ask that you please RSVP with a link in the chat to Eventbrite that I will include in the meeting summary.
Thank you for that public comment, and with that, you can continue. Sorry, Janice.
All right, thank you very much. So We sent an email out to the steering committee members with a few questions, and also some materials that recapped our February meeting. So if you have, we had two documents that reflected the conversation that we had in February. One is a raw notes, so literally we just transcribed everything electronically. And then the second document that we have is the same information that you all provided, but also categorized. So it's a little bit more digestible in the possible actions that it might relate to. So that's a summary of what you have. And then, so moving on to our main discussion this evening is about identifying outcomes and goals. And so we wanted to give a little bit of definitions of how we're interpreting actions and outcomes and goals and how are they different. So in the purple, the actions is like the how. The specific steps taken to reach the goal, concrete measurable steps that contribute to achieving an outcome or a goal. And then the outcome and goals is the why and what. It provides the direction, purpose, often, it's usually pretty broad and long-term. So that's good. So here's an example of what other communities have done in terms of identifying the concern, actions, and outcome. So the first thing was identifying the concern. So this is from San Diego International Borders Community, where they identified a concern for residential. They wanted to reduce indoor residential exposure to air pollution. Well, how did they get there? The how. They developed and implemented residential air filtration and monitoring programs for residences. They developed popular education materials on how to best reduce air pollution from indoor sources. And they also worked with the city and county to partner to direct people to resources for different things such as solar, weatherization, and transitioning to electric from gas appliances. And then the outcome, which is the goal, which is the step that we're going to be talking about today, was community care. They really wanted to protect children, elderly, chronically ill, and other groups vulnerable to air pollution. And here is another example from South LA, where they identified a concern. It was for mobile sources. They reduced exposure, and it was to reduce exposure at schools. And some of the actions is, they wanted to work with schools, districts, and the CSC to develop a prioritized list of schools for air filtration systems. Another thing that they did towards that was to also work with local school districts and the CSE to support community projects that reduces students' exposure to air pollution, such as a Safer Routes to School program. And so a lot of the ideas that came out from the February meeting is how I would categorize the two. When we prioritize the concerns, if you guys can remember the different STAR activities that we did, that was number one. And then so today we're talking about what the outcome would be, which is the why and the what. And really that's the reason why they want to do all of these things is to reduce students' exposure to air pollution, especially in mobile sources. So with that, those are the two examples, and I'll pass it to the co-leads to lead the activity.
Great. Thank you. This is Roberto again. Thank you, Janice, for that introduction of what we're going to be doing today. There are a few items that we need to address. And the very first thing, do you notice how the way we're sitting changed for this committee? So Morgan and the district and myself and the team, we're really thinking about how to make this committee more engaging and how to make it more inviting to people to share their thoughts and like to continue making a difference moving forward, right? So like if at the end of the meeting, you have more comments on how we can do that as a team, please come and tell us. We're really open to hear how we can make it more engaging and yeah, more successful in a way, even more so than it already is. So the first that we need to get into is that we, in past meetings, started in January, we were talking about a timeline. We've been talking about the timeline from the beginning of the year, right? And we're all learning here. Janice and Morgan and I, we met for like 10 hours over the past 3 weeks in different meetings, trying to figure out exactly how we're gonna propose some ideas to you all so that we could decide on something and maybe reorganize ourselves a little bit. So we had a timeline, and when we developed it in a way that we were thinking about strategies, right? We were thinking about, okay, how do we use permitting? How do we use, man, I don't remember all of the breakout sessions that we had, but we were thinking about strategies, compliance, exactly. So we are not experts, none of the committee members. I mean, that was foreign language to me and to a lot of us, even though it was super informational. I mean, we took a lot of notes. We were able to figure out what was important to us. But after meeting many times over the last 3 weeks, we realized that maybe we want to change our strategy to thinking about goals first, priorities second, and then strategies at the bottom. Yes, it was very important for us to think about the strategies, but now we need to think about what are the goals? What do we need the strategies for? Well, to achieve a goal, right? So the strategy is that what we're doing. So as you all remember, last month, we did a prioritization exercise. It's actually on the screen right now. What that was, it was us deciding what's important for us, right? What is it that we want to really work on for the next year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever the timeline that we have. And the reason this is important is because we need to understand that not everything is good. Everything is important, but we only have a limited amount of resources, a limited amount of time, right? The fact that there are 3 of those that are not priorities, quote unquote, doesn't mean we're not doing anything about it. It just means that we're gonna prioritize the first 3 that were voted the most first, and then we're gonna work with the rest. So, okay, let me see. Am I trying to talk about how we need to change the goals? Yes, we need to change goals, strategy, goals, priorities, strategy. And we're gonna need to update a timeline for that, right? Now that we identify, okay, we know that commercial services, mobile services, and urban planning are the most important things for the committee. So we need to think about how we're gonna use our time in meetings and resources to achieve those better outcomes for those priorities. Okay, cool. The next timeline change, perfect. The last thing that I have for you before I pass it on to my colleague here is that as part of thinking about how to make this more engaging, we're thinking about how do we bring everybody into teams so that we can tackle different things separately, right? Again, we have a limited amount of time. We know that we're all busy, we're extremely busy, but we're here for a reason, because we want to make change. We want to drive change. We represent people in our communities. We're sitting in these chairs because we represent a certain amount of people in certain different communities. So in the back wall for the people online, so we have 3 teams that we need to build. One is for urban and mobile planning, one is for residential services, and one is for commercial services. So it would be ideal, it's 12 of us, 12 committee members, if each of us, if there were 4 people in each of those committees or teams. So they're gonna sign up themselves, right? So you're gonna, if you can tell us today at the end of the meeting, or there's gonna be some time for an activity later, if you can tell us which of those you would prefer to work on, you could do 1, 2, or the 3 if you have the time, it's up to you. But we are gonna have to work in teams to develop our goals and strategies. So now I'm gonna pass it to my colleague. We, over the past 3 weeks, we've been thinking about utilizing all of the feedback that we received. It was made digital. We took all of the comments, all of the questions, all of the priorities, all of the notes that we have. We put everything together and we came up with these base goals. We use AI tools, yes, but we make sure that everything was captured in this as generally as possible so that we could fix it as we went on, okay? So Morgan, please take it over.
All right, good afternoon again. So first, I guess let's take note of the actions that the steering committee's already taken. Yeah, right, this is actually a nice plethora of information of brainstorming we all did together. Janice is actually getting ready to come around and pass some information to you all. That just kind of goes over, the summarized theory of goals that we can have. At the immediate moment, I'm gonna touch on urban planning. One of the things that I do want to make mention is we've created it in a standard where it's 3 different levels. So we're looking at it from the standpoint that at this point, we continue to plan, but we want to get tangible results now moving forward. So we have quick goals, we have our medium-term goals and our long-term.
10 minutes remaining.
Thank you. So with the quick goals, that's more so like, what can we do as of this Saturday, right? Like, what are things that we can come up with, and start putting into practice immediately? So this is when I actually want to open up the floor to, not only our steering committee, but also the community members who are present, but just so that we can have the discussion on what a quick win goal looks like, and or the particular goal that's placed on here for number 1 for urban planning, how we feel about this quick win goal. So again, it is very vague, which leaves us room to really strategize and come up with different ideas, so that it doesn't have to be 2 or 3 different strategies that are exactly the same or are trying to fix this. Obviously fixing this, to get to the same solution, but not the same walk. Also, when thinking about that, as we look at, or as we talk about what kind of goals we can come up with, we want to understand the priorities and our why. So the quick win goal for the urban planning is improve transparency and community oversight of land use decisions that contribute to air pollution. So this is when I will open it up to the floor. If anyone has any insights, again, we kind of want to make this more of a discussion piece. So it's not, it is not feeling like there's any specific municipalities or organizations that are gearing us towards any different direction. We want to make sure that this is actually the steering committee and as community members putting forth these different strategies and goals. Any input? Cause I hate to start calling names. Any input from district staff, if maybe, if might trigger some thoughts for community members as well as, local district staff?
Hi, this is Ward Mitchell, I'm for South 8 Recreation and Park District. And maybe there's a way, anytime someone does a project, they always have to do an environmental document. So maybe there's a way we can call attention to the impact on air quality. Maybe somehow the air quality management district doesn't actually review all these things, but maybe the local jurisdiction where there's a city or a county could call attention to this committee when there's a significant impact to the air quality in somebody's environmental document.
Just want to note, can you speak a little louder, for both the interpreters and for online? It's hard to hear.
You want me to repeat that, or?
That might be helpful, yes.
Okay, so when someone does a construction project, they need to do an environmental document like a CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. So maybe there's a way that the local jurisdictions, whether they're a county or a city, could notify the air quality management district or this committee when there's a project that has a significant impact on air quality.
Thank you. And thank you. That's super important, and that's how we get there, right? So like, that is a strategy that we could use to get to that goal that we're aiming for. And that is exactly where I was over the weekend, because I was thinking about, okay, what are the goals that we could create? And I just continue to come up with actions, right? Because it's difficult to think about a general idea. So we noted that, and I think that is a great one that is a great strategy to achieve goal number one, right? Like the short-term goal, which is improve transparency in community oversight of land use decisions and that contribute to air pollution.
Okay, so thought, right? Here's a thought that came up for me. Sorry, this is Morgan Brown for those online. So I did not necessarily love the wording of our quick win goal. I don't know if there's any feedback from the steering committee. I guess for me, again, I don't love it. I feel like it works. I guess for me, I think I'm more on the strategy side. So again, wanting the feedback from our steering committee and district as well, like community members. I know one of the things that I kind of look at is quick win / medium term that I've been thinking about is like tree planting. You know, as being able to facilitate tree giveaways to community members. While the results are definitely long-term, because we're not gonna get a full-grown tree in 9 to 12 months. But at least starts the process of having people be more environmentally conscious and available, being able to maybe create a project like that. So that was one project that I thought about and has been mentioned from a few different committee members is tree planting, specifically within the community of our community members.
Quick note on time, 4 minutes remaining as outlined. You can always amend.
For urban planning.
This is just for your total discussion
Okay.
of 15 minutes.
Okay. Any comments on the quick win goals or any suggestions or strategies on quick win goals? Barry?
Suggesting that we had discussed in third line itself Saturday and yes, we can take that.
Hold on 1 second, Barry. We absolutely want to hear exactly what you have to say.
My apologies and good evening, everyone. Sorry, scaring myself at repeating briefly at this Sweet Potato Festival Saturday. Vincent, remind myself, we were talking about the tree planting that Vincent was involved with at the City of Sacramento. Supervisor Kennedy, Councilwoman Vane, and several others had just, I believe, 2 weeks ago, United Latinos. I forgot to ask Vincent if he was there and United Latinos benefit, or if he was there as a community member. But I'm not sure, Janice, if you guys were there or not. But anyway, all that to say, I forget how many trees that they did plant. And Saturday, I had a conversation with Board Supervisor Kennedy, asking for a meeting, which he agreed to, for strategies for planting more trees in our served boundary. We'll come to a specific area because he's in the unincorporated area, so it won't be in the city of Sacramento. So with that said, that was what I was going to, was my input for the tree planting. One of the strategies for the immediate, but 2 things on that, I'll wrap it up. There's a grant that is available now, the one of the Clean Air Act grants. I just don't remember the dollar amount that needs to be headed by the nonprofit that the CSC could, I mean, it's a partner, but we need a nonprofit as the lead on that strategy. And in addition to that, the CERB monies, separate monies, allow for a short-term strategy that can be implemented before the strategies of the CERB are fully established. And third is the outside funding, part of those 2 that may come from Supervisor Kennedy, just FYI for everyone. Thank you. We got some hands over here.
Just a quick reminder, if any subcommittee members, or the committee members online, go ahead and raise your hand. And we'll get to you after the discussion.
We also have 1 more minute.
Richard Falcone here. Barry, if you were talking to the tree planting that's been recently done, along with United Latinos, Cal Relief grant that we got back on March 1, That group planted 10 trees that particular day. And then at the March 9th event, in partnership with Meadowview Urban Planning Project there, we also did, I think they did 23 trees, Hat John Still School. And United Latino still has an April tree planting where we'll be putting on another 10 trees there as well. In regard to the grant that you referred to with the community, trying to remember the grant now, but I know Vince has been in discussions with the folks in the New York Quality Management District, and it is United Latinos' intention to put together a coalition of organizations to apply for that urban tree planting initiative that we hope that can be funded there. So, and a lot of discussions there to get that planning.
Definitely clean air.
The clean air, yes, yes. Yeah, we hope that the idea is not just for one, but maybe we can get a lot of multiple organizations to really conceptualize what that project should actually be and make sure that we're getting representation from everywhere on that. And especially when it comes to the areas where the trees are going to be planted, I think we've got to be, pretty intentional about that.
Just want to note that we reached the original allotted time, so we'd like to extend the time for this item or extended. So by how much?
I'll say 12 minutes.
Okay.
Specifically.
Specifically, maybe extending this time. So we are currently at 6:46. We will continue this item until we get to 6:58.
So, am I ready to go? Okay, Armand Barahona with Saki JC. I like the draft. I think it's fair to, bucket it in that sense. Although SERP is only what, the next 3 years, right?
So once we adopt it, then we have to talk about. Once we adopt it, then we also have 5 years to implement.
5 years, okay, so we got a 2030 goal, more or less. But I think we can beef it up and raise the standard. If we aim for Pluto, hopefully we'll land in Mars, not the moon. So there's a lot of low hanging fruit in this town that we could have done without AB 617. So I think the key is to use AB 617 to leverage the things that air quality management regulators would have done normally, right? I mean, we have cops that give tickets for speeding tickets. We shouldn't have a piece of legislation for them to give more, right? There should be something that's above and beyond what AQMD does normally or CAR in the district. So if we can beef it up a little bit, I think it should be something open to discussion, right?
Yeah, that's a really good comment, Armand. I also want to add that, as you guys are in these teams and talking about the different strategies, this is just a starting point, and this is the end. When you have those discussions, that's when you can also beef it up to some more specifics, because you'll learn more about a program, you'll have more ideas about the different projects, so then we can continue to add to it, but really just a starting point.
Richard Falcone again, and if I may add, because I think we're talking about more than just the urban planting, or are we just staying on urban planting?
So at the immediate moment we were talking about urban planning, we're actually ready to jump into residential sources so that way we can kind of figure it out, yeah.
I'll wait till urban planning is done. I want to jump in on residential sources.
Okay, so just to kind of briefly kind of wrap up what we have here for the urban planning part. Again, for me and Roberta and the district, as we've been talking and collaborating, I think that just kind of looking at as far as a quick win versus our medium term, just to kind of get the ball rolling, we wanted to come up with, again, more tangible things. And thank you, Armand, for your comment, because I think that is, that makes so much sense. Being able to leverage the collaboration that we do have with the air district to make a large, meaningful impact. So I'm just gonna read through the medium and the long term, and then we'll jump into residential sources. So for the medium term goal, this is more of a 2-year plan. We're looking at quick win, again, as some things that we can implement pretty much immediately. So medium term being reduce the approval and siting of high emissions facilities near residential areas, schools and parks. And for our ambitious goals, this kind of aligns once again with what Armand was saying. This is from 2028 to about 2031. It's long-term, prevent further concentration of industrial pollution and heavy diesel traffic in the environmental justice communities. In environmental justice communities in Southside Florida.
Just want to make a note, we have about 3 minutes right now, for the remaining priority, groups. And then also just a reminder that everyone can speak up a little louder, still having some technical issues online with people hearing. And they've requested that we slow down our delivery as well.
Okay. So we will pass it on to Roberta so we can address the residential sources. But just to kind of recap once again, I think that for the most part, from not only just our outreach committee meetings, but from the things that we've heard from the community, I feel like maybe moving forward with edible landscapes, tree canopies and green spaces might be something that immediate action, I assume that everyone is okay with.
2 seconds, to what you just stated, what you just stated, sorry, for the interruption, and what Armand, Richard and I all, said as well, but just addressing, if I heard right, Janice, you said something more or less that is still to be discussed, and then taking it down the road, just to put a finer point on it, so you're saying within, these immediate strategies that we're discussing, research strategies can happen within the next 30 to 60 days. We're not looking to go
Still
beyond
need
that.
the mic to be held over.
We're not going beyond that, sorry. So what has been proposed can happen within the next, let's say, 30 to 60 days. We're not looking to go beyond that, are we, for these, the immediate.
So we are looking at long-term goals, right? The short, medium, and long-term. And what we want to do is to be able to identify like our starting point. As you guys get into the specific team discussions, you might want to refine the different types of actions and strategies that you were talking about to be bucketed in one of these large goals. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. That's what. But that's just for clarification. These are strategies outside of the SERP strategies. These are immediate strategies that are available with funding available now, immediate, like 60-day immediate, not to further discussion 6 to 12 months from now. That's what I just wanted to make sure, because the way you stated the first time is the way you stated the second time. So just for clarity, there is money available to do this now, and now be in the next 60 days, just FYI for everybody.
Just noting, we're about 6.5 minutes in, so we're over halfway through our extended time.
Thank you. Well, is this about urban planning also?
Residential.
Okay, then I'll share them then. Okay, so I think something that we might have missed in the way we're discussing this, right? So I just want to recap, because I know it took me several times to be able to understand that. So we have the priorities, we're figuring out the goals, and we're gonna use the strategies that we learn to be able to meet those goals, right? So the way we were thinking about this too in one of our meetings was, okay, what are the priorities that we have, right? We have urban planning, residential sources, mobile sources. So those are the first 3. So what are the natural strategies that align with the priorities that we're working, right? So for example, for urban planning, well, actually residential sources might be easier. So for residential sources, which we're getting into now, what are those strategies that match naturally with that priority? We would be compliance, right? Outreach, residential sources, you let them know, okay, there's pollutants inside of your house. Let's educate people, right? So outreach, urban planning and incentives, right? So like, we need to think about this as these are just the general thoughts, and we are gonna come up with the strategies, you know, eventually, like the tree planting. That is something that supports a goal. So Morgan and I were discussing, okay, how can we update that first goal so that we can have more tree planting? If a tree planting is a strategy that we want to pursue, okay, maybe the quick win shouldn't be improved transparency and community oversight of land use decisions that contribute to air pollution. If that doesn't match one of the strategies that we want to use, right? Maybe it should be increase green spaces by 50%. Is that a good goal? Would you say, Janice? Okay, great. So we can come back. If you have ideas, we can come back and think, I see Nick moving his legs really quickly. He's getting anxious. Nick, we are gonna have to extend it. All right, let's move on to residential services now, all right? I'm gonna go through the three goals. Everybody online, you're welcome to chime in, please do. So the first goal that we have is, reduce residential exposure to indoor quality, to indoor air pollutants. So it's very general, we know, and then we're gonna come in with different, strategies. Medium-term goal, reduce, this is a big one, right, because we've talked about it every meeting, reduce wood burning emissions and promote residential electrification in overburdened neighborhoods. And then the long term is improve air quality in multifamily housing located near major freeways and trucking corridors. Why is this important? Especially with the last one, right? Like it kind of encompasses everything that we've been talking about. So for example, think about the last couple of meetings where we've been meeting, we have been educated on the different strategies. People were the first community that came to mind when thinking about this goal was the Florence Road near 99. There is 2 apartment complexes there. Not only are they affected by the freeway nearby, there's also a lot of drive-through spaces there. So that is the type of long-term. Okay. Questions or comments on residential services goals? Go for it, Richard.
I wanted to just add for the group, in case the group wasn't aware, that the Greening North Franklin project is taking this in. This is being referred to in that project as pollution strategy number 1. And with that, United Latinos is already going to be providing education, outreach, and support here within the project boundaries for the Greening North Franklin, which are right inside the AB 617 USERP boundaries already, where we will be doing a lot of the work that you're already talking about here. Also, in conjunction with Community Resource Project, we're going to be working within those same households to also start talking about some of the retrofitting for correcting some of the indoor strategies as well, including some of the electrification strategies that you're talking about now. So what I'm asking, I guess, here, so that we don't completely have to reinvent the wheel, what are the opportunities to already partner with something that's going on right now as we try to put these goals together to satisfy the search strategy? So it's more of a question than anything else.
So actually, that's kind of where I was going with the strategy or suggestion. I think that when it comes to residential sources, because there are, organizations like SMUD and CRP that do the electrification, I think it would be advantageous for us to look at partnerships, in circumstances like that, even as well as partnering with, obviously, United Latinos, other CBOs in the area that, we want to reach, that if we want to reach the people, then the best way to reach the people is by doing it with organizations that already touch families. So I think that is a great idea, is to, and you said Greening North Franklin?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that looking at a medium term, I wouldn't necessarily call it a quick win goal, but as a medium term goal, maybe creating a collaborative of a sort for us to, number one, be able to use some of the funding that we own to the Air District has, to add in there to be able to increase the amount of people that are helped through programs that CRP Community Resource Project and SMUD actually does.
I did want to add in just as an aside that it is a federal US EPA grant. So of course, we're watching the funding very closely to make sure that it doesn't get removed, which would then, of course, put the project at risk for success. So just something to consider as we think about some of those collaborations going forward. But some of the short-term goals, for example, for United Latinos is here within the next 6 to 9 months, we will have provided indoor air monitoring and ongoing education for 75 residents within this project zone. Within the next year, we would up that to about another 75 within the next year. So it's about 75 households per year over the next 3 years, just to put that into the strategy. CRP also has the same goal of, I think, around 200 homes over that same 3-year period to do retrofitting too. So as you start thinking about some of the goals, you want to keep them broad, but again, it's part of the collaboration. I think it may be good to collaborate and then see where some of the monies that we would have put in as AB 617 might be able to then go somewhere else, for example, since someone else is already spending money. Am I making sense?
100%.
Just want to make note that we've reached the time limit, so if there's extension on this, that would, need to be approved by the co-leads.
Absolutely, let's overdraft this time.
Perfect. We also have, two comments, online on the, residential sources priority as well as, a lagging comment for the urban. But we will continue to focus on the comments in person and then we'll do that at the end. Just want to make.
Thank you, yeah, thank you. Well, something that I want to mention, and I'll say this with love, okay? We want to, so we know there's a lot of things happening. We understand that. What we want to do, and actually partnering, that's key. Like we actually, if you look at the longer package that we provided, we actually have suggested partners for each of the different goals that we have. What we want to hear today is how would you improve, change, or comments on the actual goals that are happening right now that you have in front of you? How would you improve those goals, or how would you get rid of them and people's new goals? And the reason I'm making this, clear now is because we need to get this voted on today. And if there are any changes that need to be made today to the goals, we can think about strategies and partnerships and everything else next meeting or at the start. So let's refocus on the goals. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. Any?
Seems like the comments online might be relevant to that point.
Fantastic.
So we'll have Britta read that. And we also just need to know for the purposes of the meeting minute, how long is the co-leads extending this topic item? 15 minutes.
13, yeah, that sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, so we have a comment from Erica Jaramillo who says, we need a higher standard to help public health in a place where the accumulation of pollution is making people sick. So that's referring to residential sources. And could be applied to other areas as well. And then Faye Wilson Kennedy asked, what about noise pollution?
Loud noise.
So, yeah, so noise pollution is anything like very loud. Disturbing.
So for example, people who are unhoused, they have continuous noise. We can go into our home, shut our doors, but people who are unhoused have continuous noise, particularly if they're living near freeways and different things like that, as well as people who live near places where there's ongoing noise, like ambulance, police all the time. Unfortunately, it tends to be people who live in what we would call impacted low-income community. It's just constant noise all the time, helicopters flying over. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning. So noise pollution, like air pollution, can really have an impact on your health, both mental health as well as your physical health.
I would say that this may be outside of the scope of practice of what I may have knowledge on. I think this may be higher on a county, city level, but I will pass this to Janice David.
So Faye, that's a really important concern, I think, that you brought up. And I think one of the ways that we can help address noise pollution is maybe working with the local jurisdictions or leveraging, some of the things that we're hoping to do in emission reductions to see if it could also help with that particular concern.
Okay. Thank you.
For the residential issue, and again, going back to AB 617, when we read the legislation, it says that it's supposed to reduce the accumulation, the impact that accumulated pollution has in town. So red lighting in this part of town is definitely a big problem. So if we start reversing And we have evidence that our efforts are reversing historical redlining. Residential homes will not have to deal with just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. The root cause is emissions, right? And whether it goes inside or outside, either way. So I'm on the board of CRP. We're having this discussion right now about the Franklin Greening Project. We'll have some trees, we'll have some solar energy, where possible, because a lot of homes can't sustain. So a lot of the solar solar panels possibly will go to the big building, not Familia's building. We don't know that yet. We're gonna have to go back and forth on that. But what I know for 8617 is, what are we reducing when it comes to
We're gonna show this around.
Okay, our break time is now over. Welcome back, everyone. Again, I will just do a quick recap, going back over our residential sources. Once again, we are doing now in person for everyone who's online. We are doing team signups for these different goals. Excuse me, for the different categories and priorities, which are urban and mobile planning, residential sources, as well as commercial sources. So if there are any specific team/subcommittees that you are interested in assisting, participating, and giving your input, feel free to drop it in the chat. So back to residential sources, again, one of our medium-term goals, which we're looking at from a time frame of 2026 to 2028, would be to reduce wood burning emissions and promote the residential electrification in overburdened neighborhoods. And as far as a long-term goal, we have improved air quality in multifamily housing located near trucking corridors. And again, I'm just reading through the goals, that way we can kind of get past this point. And if there is any tweaking, any thoughts, concerns, that come up, please feel free in the room, raise your hand, in the chat, raise your hand, make a comment. As far as mobile sources for quick win, short-term goals, we have reduced air pollution emissions near schools and residential areas, including diesel emissions. For medium-term goals, we have decreased truck traffic through residential corridors and school zones, including diesel trucks. And for long-term, we have increased the adoption of zero-emission vehicles and charging infrastructure in the South Sacramento, Florida area. And for our commercial sources, we have encouraged small businesses to adopt pollution reduction practices. For health and education, we have expand community awareness of air pollution and protective actions. And for industrial sources, we have enhanced transparency around industrial emissions and enforcement. Once again, for our steering committee, this was sent to you prior to the meeting. So the next steps would be for us to move to vote that we are okay with these goals. So that way we can start developing the priorities and strategies. And then secondly, again, also looking at any extra goals that may need to be added and as we move forward. But I assume we can now move forward with, unless there are any questions or concerns with the goals that we've just reviewed, we can move forward with a vote. Or sorry, we can now move for
go to that
discussion.
item. Okay. We still have a comment or raised hand online. I just want to note that. And yes, the next item would be to open up the motion and then have discussions from the steering committee and public if the motion passes. This is the discussion. So the next item would be the opening up of the motion. If that motion would pass, then there's a discussion ahead of the vote on the motion.
Into the word next, so right now we're still having.
Correct. Yes, we're still doing that, yes.
So the question from steering committee member Barry Boyd was, are we now in the process of motion to vote or are we still in discussion mode? So per the screen, we are at step number 2, steering committee discussion.
Yes, so for clarity, for anyone online as well, we are in the agenda item currently. Agenda item number 3, action item. This is for the CERT goal activity and vote. We're currently having discussion on that before we have formally entered into the motion. If the motion were to pass, there is then still the steering committee discussion on the motion as well as public comment on the motion before a vote is taken.
Okay, Richard Falcone here, just back on the residential sources for the medium-term goal. I'm questioning whether reduced wood burning emissions is too specific, because it almost makes me think specifically wood burning emissions, or there are other types of emissions that can be reduced with the proper education in the residents. So just putting that out there.
So so based on the comment from Richard Falcone, my question is, So do you think that we should take out wood burning emissions and just say reduce residential emissions? So it's not as specific?
Yes,
Okay, all right, so we are going to change from reduce wood burning to reduce residential.
Just tonight, we did have questions online, clarifying, we have not had a motion on this item. Therefore, we are not in the motion discussion on this item. We're having a pre-motion conversation currently. So thank you, Erica. We understand if you have a question for the motion comment, we will hold priority for that.
Batteries. Okay, I was going out, my apologies. Just shooting through these, the majority of these are just outreach versus enforcement versus an actual strategy for mobile sources to stop emanating such emissions. Outreach and education is a part of, is educating the community, great. But what is the strategy to mitigate the emissions that are happening, that are causing the health issues in our boundary? Where's that strategy? Because I'm not seeing it in the proposed.
So to answer your question, Barry, we have not put, so we're keeping this pretty vague, so that way our strategies can all be in alignment with the goals. So this isn't necessarily strategies. You have two packets. One, that has the draft ideas, that is a summary of the goals, and another one that's about a 5-pager that has suggested strategies. So we're not necessarily going over suggested strategies. We just want to make sure that everyone is in alignment, and that the community also feels like we're not missing anything as far as the goals itself. We'll deal with the priorities and strategies per the goals later.
I understand that, but if I, since.
We still need a mic, sorry, I apologize. And then also just noting.
4 or 5 microphones, next meetings are events. With that said, I understand your point, but you're asking us to vote on something that does not include specific emission reductions from stationary sources. So even though later we will polish, put a finer point on it, however, what you want to phrase it, right now, we're about to be asked to make a motion and vote on a packet that does not contain any emissions reductions from mobile sources in our served community. That's the point I was trying to get across.
Can I address?
Go for it.
Barry's? So Barry, if we go to mobile sources, under the quick wins, medium, and then long term, it does say reduce air pollution emissions near schools, residence areas, including diesel. So we can develop strategies from any stationary sources that would contribute to that goal. And then on medium-term goal, it says decrease truck traffic through residential corridors, school zones, including diesel trucks. That might not have the stationary sources that you're talking about, so perhaps maybe including language in here could help refine that goal to get to your point.
Absolutely, my point is to going after.
I apologize, but we will need a mic for the records. I apologize. I also want to note for the co-leads that we have exceeded the time for the extension. If you'd like to create another, we would just need to know how long.
Again, just not to belabor the point, but making the point, going after non-mobile sources specifically, not in addition to, not by proxy of their mobile sources, i.e. their trucks, but the actual factory, let's say Pepsi, let's say the paper plant there off of Gerber, let's say what's coming up at Old Campbell Soup, let's say. So my point, which I'm gonna keep hammering home, non-mobile sources need to be included if there is going to be a motion made. If it isn't, I'll ask for an amendment to that motion to make sure that we specifically go after a strategy to mitigate non-mobile sources. I'm not being an ass, I'm just making a very, very poignant point, that's all, thank you.
And Barry, I appreciate your statement and your comment. So here is my proposal to you. Because again, as I review the different goals that we have on here, there are a few non-mobile goals. However, my suggestion, or I guess my ask of you is, do you have any specific goals that we can add in? So that way we are now making sure that it is in alignment with what you feel is missing.
The mic's off. And then also just, sorry, for point of order, we do need a time approval for the code. So just how much time would you like to extend?
7:24, so there's,
It is now 7:24. If we can get to the point where we can. We're gonna say no later than 35 after.
All right, so for the record, we are extending this segment to 7:35. And then we will open up the next segment, which will take 10 minutes for the actual motion, ideally. And that will affect the additional items.
And in addition, really quick, if I'm gonna say that if we in fact cannot get past, or come to a general consensus by 7:35, it may, and I kind of present this not only to my co-lead steering committee, but also the district. If we can't get past it, then we may need people to sleep on it to the next meeting, so that way we're actually moving forward.
I think the best recommendation for the agenda item is you would still move forward with the motion. If you didn't feel like it was an adequate time, you could vote against the motion, and then that would end it. And then you would also have the vote to vote against if you want to return to this later on to close out the item.
Thank you for that, Ben.
Perfect.
Okay, my name is Arturo, I'm a retired. And I'm very concerned about what we're talking here, because we're thinking in the future. But my concern is now, what we can do in the short term for our families, and most for the people that will live here in South Sac, is not to wait till 2030 to fix everything. We have money coming from the government, let's use it now. It's good to do strategies, but public health is very important, because we're humans and we get sick very easily. Kids, this is the world we want to leave to the kids. So I think that we have to think, everything's okay, let's plant a tree. Oh, it's gonna take the tree to go. Barry mentioned Campbell and other stationary, factories that they make pollution, they're still there. What we can do, to stop a little bit that, because the environment has all this free contaminators going around, flying, And okay, we can try to, control this and that, but it's still there. But what we can do in the short term to help our environment, to help our health. Because I think everybody's getting sick, asthma, even heart problems, all those contaminants that we have here, CO2 increasing like crazy, So I think that it's okay, I think we're doing good and thinking. But why we don't think a little bit to do something more in the short term, not long term, what can help us, if we have some resources, let's use it, in the future, probably the future not gonna be even here. But let's do something now for the future of the kids.
Thank you very much for that comment, Arturo. It is true, what you say is true. I feel like the way we outlined the goals is so that we could meet some of that, immediate action. And the main thing to remember too is that we do have to meet a 5-year timeline, right? With the CERT, that's the way we need to develop it so that we can have goals from now to 5 years. So like it is, we're trying to make it as actionable as possible as we go. And once we get to the strategies, I think that's where we're gonna have a lot more room to say, okay, if it's not tree planting, let something else, right? So like, I think once we get there, I would love to hear how you think we can approach that. And I think we will welcome those ideas to get there. Thank you for that. Then Richard, for it.
Very quickly, I wanted to respond to Barry. Barry, number 4 is commercial sources. And in fact, you'll see up here on the teams that there is one for commercial sources. And on the commercial sources, that goal is to encourage small businesses to adopt pollution reduction practices. So it is something that's already up here on the table. Again, got to develop the strategies to get there, but there is a goal in place. I just wanted to point that out to you.
Right, to encourage girls to go down all right. I encourage you to invest. Let's be. I encourage you. To stay in the working. So my point being, is, as you stated, putting a finer point on it, will narrow the actuality of what the strategy is for that mobile, non-mobile source, the commercial entities, what to do. The filtration system that apparently isn't working as it is, let's say with the cannabis industry, you cannot, if you walk through by a cannabis store and you smell it, they are not complying and they'll be dinged. So the same way with industrial level versus giving them the opportunity for incentives for the cap and trade, and we'll keep polluting you, but so we'll just buy these old cars and take them off the street. So balance the bucket. No, it's not balancing the bucket. And as Arturo, the doctor has stated, it's the health, and that health disparity amongst the DAC communities, disadvantaged communities. We are #1 in the worst respiratory health in all of Sacramento County. How it stops or why it's so much greater in the low-income communities, because of those factories aren't built near the high-end, high-dollar communities. But to your point, not just say, hey, why don't you guys knock it off? No, enforcement of what 8617 is in a true strategy, again, of stopping the polluting and not just buying incentive credits and just saying, oh, well. But I appreciate your comment.
And we have 5 minutes left in the session.
Yep, thank you, Nicholas. So, just one other addition, and again, let me know if you feel like this still is in alignment with, I guess, some of the things that you're expressing. But on page 1 of the draft ideas for certain priority goals, under long-term and under medium-term, for long-term, we have prevent further concentration of industrial pollution and high diesel traffic and environmental justice communities in Southside. So again, assuming that this also fits around, non-mobile sources, as well as reduce the approval and siting of high emissions facilities near residential areas, schools and parks. Which again, I feel like in turn may still touch on some of the conversations that we've been having about warehouses and factories, because these are non-mobile and these are in our highly concentrated urban areas.
I agree to you. The downside is the lack of real estate and now we're building each other industrial, any other industrial entity. I'm impatient. The downside, I absolutely agree with your point. No, in the future, no building thereof. The last of the available real estate is the anaerobic digester that we keep being told isn't being built, even though the owners of the property, with our board of supervisor, with our council members, with the KCRA news report, hey, we're building an anaerobic digester. For those who don't know what that is, it means all the food garbage that is collected through the county of Sacramento is going to be brought to Old Campbell Soup, thrown into a pit, and turned to compost. So imagine the amount of diesel vehicles coming to dump that waste there, in addition to what is going to transpire, the emissions coming out of that, not just the methane, not just the black smoke, not just the, so, but to your point, I'll wrap it up. The space available to even build an industrial complex, there isn't.
Well, so again, if we look at the long term, it's prevent the for urban planning, prevent the further concentration of industrial pollution. So that's not necessarily speaking on the build out. this is, again, such a general goal, so that way we can kind of tweak it with whatever strategies fit that.
Absolutely, I agree, but it's already in place now for those permits to where those.
So here's my question, if you say you agree, does that mean you agree with the goals that we have at hand?
No, because I'm agreeing with your statement for no further, but this is my point being to you. Nothing else is going to be built because there isn't the real estate. They're already here, and that's why so many of those truck stops that have been, popped up and granted the okay to be built along, the 99 freeway. What is that, Vineyard area coming this way, next to, also as close as Mac Road and 99. So they can have all those trucks again to go out. Part of it for the anaerobic digester and coming our way. So to your point, there isn't going to be more industrial being built. It's already here, it's already been permitted. So now let's do the strategy of forcing them to have clean air is my only point I'm trying to drive home.
Okay, so I guess, and then, and it just now comes right back to the same thing. So do you have any suggestions for additional goals? Do you have a way that we can tweak the goals that we have in our urban planning? Or do you feel like the goals that we have here do not align with some of the concerns that were brought up?
I don't see any of the suggestions that will mitigate polluting emissions from the current industrial industries that we have in the served borders. Boundaries now.
Okay. So I am going to, I'm assuming I'm doing this the right way. I'm going to move forward to vote on this.
Yes, you can make, you can move for a motion.
Yes,
and then that motion is,
My motion is to move
seconded.
to go ahead and vote on the approval of these goals.
So currently you can move for a motion on the votes.
I move for a motion on the votes.
Is there a second? Have a second. All right, so we have first and second approval for the motion, so the motion passes. We are now going to open up the discussion. We again will move for the in-person steering committee members to have a discussion on this motion. Right, and so unless there's any further discussion on that, we will then move to virtual, because I know we didn't have time. Was there any current committee members online? See any? So now we'll move to the public comment on this. We're going to move to the public comment on this item. Any public in person that have a comment on the motion to vote on these goals? Seeing none, we will then go to the virtual public comment. Thank you, Erica, for your patience. We will take your comment first. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm gonna try to be succinct because I have like a lot, my wheels are spinning right now. So my first concern is that these are not measurable. And I just say that with an abundance of caution with you guys voting on this because it's really hard to actually see a goal that you want if you don't have, if it's not measurable. If you're, for example, enhancing transparency, well, what does that look like? How do you enhance transparency? One of the things I've learned about sitting on the Sacramento County's Community Health Improvement Plan, their CHIP steering committee, is having a measurable goal. Like, for example, one of the things that we're working on is reducing evictions in a specific census tract by 50%. So then you work backwards from that. So while I can appreciate the strategy of going backwards, if you don't have something measurable that you want to achieve, then the accountability is also missing. There's no way to really hold anyone accountable if you don't actually have a measurable goal that you want to see happen. The other thing I want to just, I guess, as a reminder for y'all to think about is that we learned in those learning sessions that you guys did that South Sacramento has 35% of permitted uses out of the entire county, which involves businesses that attract diesel engine trucks. And also that there are 14 large source permits in the entire county and 7 of them are in South Sacramento. So these are like specific things that you can identify and measure, like create a goal to measure against, like reducing large source permits or having a moratorium on South Sacramento's large source permits. That's just my feedback on this. I know you guys are gonna vote on it, but I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Any other public comments online? Yes, go ahead, Faye.
Can you hear me? I agree with Erica's comments that, so for example, if you were going to try to create a measurable goal for around transparency, you would have to look at some rewording. The way it was presented to us tonight is not measurable. And then the whole thing around when Erica talked about the diesel trucks, oftentimes in low-income communities, for example, FedEx goes through up and down Power End Road, Glen Elder Road. That's noise pollution. People who live in that corridor experience a much higher level of noise pollution than their counterparts in what we would call nicer communities or well-off community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comments online? Being none, colleagues, you can now close public comment if you'd like.
Yeah, we can close public comment.
All right, public comment is closed on the action item. The motion to vote on the goals. You are now able to have to discuss again the conversation.
So the only comment that I have to make, and again, still open this back up to our steering committee members, is the assumption was to create, I don't want to say vague goals, but goals that left it open so that way we didn't have to go in one direction. Hence the secondary document that has supporting strategy examples, suggested partners and why it's important. So in saying that, I still, I particularly understand the theory of SMART goals. I do feel like because of there's so much that we're trying to do, and because we took into account all of the suggestions that were made and brainstormed in our February meetings, we did not want to create a goal that made any community members nor steering committee members feel like they were not being heard and we were not taking into account their suggestions, hence using technology to merge the goals, so to speak, so that way we're able to create specific SMART strategies, not necessarily the goal itself, but the strategies can be specific. And we know that in turn, it is directly affecting with the goals that we created.
Thank you. This is Roberto. One last comment. And Erica, yeah, absolutely, right. So I agree that we need to have measurable outcomes, and when we get into the strategies, that's how we can measure. And something to remember too, this is the baseline. This is where we want to start the conversation, right? Like we also, as a committee, if the community is saying, hey, you know what, you messed up, 2 months from now, we need to update those goals because we've had 5 different meetings with the team. Because remember, we have teams now, right? And if we need to change those, we will change them, right? So we shouldn't let perfect be the enemy of good, right? We are really trying to move something forward here, and it's not perfect, but we need to do something now and then adjust as we go. And having those very specific comments are necessary. So Erica, thank you for that. Thank you for that. 100%, right? Like this is for us to think about how to move it forward for next month, because we are gonna have another vote in April. So at that vote, maybe we change one of these words, it's fine. We just need to move something forward right now and we'll change them. But we need community to keep us accountable, and we need to keep ourselves accountable. That's why we have the teams now. I'm gonna close it there. I don't know what's next. What do you mean to?
Next, the steering committee co-leads have the option to go ahead and vote on the motion. which would be to adopt the, and just correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that your motion was to vote to adopt the CERT goals as a bundle. Let's see if we still have comments from the steering committee.
Thank you, thank you. If I can, thank you, Roberto. If we can add to what is, going to be voted on now, offering an alternative, like reducing large source permits in the boundaries area, that's an immediate. Okay,
For which category? Urban planning?
industrial, urban planning, the goals from commercial sources,
Can you repeat what you just said again?
reducing large source permits in our boundaries. Large sources being the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis, the paper plant, the Campbell Soup-esque, going after the big gross polluters. So limiting those instead of, I forgot what the percentage is of the large source source polluters that are in South Sacramento and specifically in our CERT boundary. So an immediate would be, I know AQMD signs off on the permit. That is the information given to them. They look to see that everything's in order. That's what AQMD does. So it's up to us to find a way so that those permits get denied or at the, put up enough stink about it. So at the Planning and Design Commission, at the city council meetings, that those permits aren't so easily to go forward, and if not stopped at that level, so they don't get to AQMD to grant a permit. So there isn't a permit to grant.
Okay, so I have added the reduction or limiting of large source pollutant permits. I've added that to commercial sources as well as urban planning. The one thing that I did not mention that I probably should have, is we have 6 in total categories, so to speak, and we are looking to focus on the first 3. And the main reason to do that is because we are only a committee of so many people. There's only so much we can all do at once. Again, we got CERT CARB meetings, CERT outreach subcommittee meetings. Now we just created some other teams. So the intention is to be able to, and that's why I added it. So I added your suggestion both to the urban planning and commercial sources. So that way we're kind of head on addressing, kind of working on starting to address the strategies for that. But just wanted to make sure that I did mention to the entire committee, the only reason why the number 4, 5, and 6 don't have that breakdown is because these were the urban planning, the residential sources, and the mobile sources. When we had the boards up and everybody put their stickers and voted, these were the 3 most voted categories from both the community as well as the steering committee. So again, just trying to elaborate that we're not trying to miss the mark on the commercial non-mobile sources based on the feedback that everybody gave us. These were the high priority topics, but hence why I put it on both what we're working on right now and still to be able to jump back and readdress under commercial sources, if that seems permissible.
No, I get what you're saying, high priority targets for the.
Right, yeah. That's the bit of my apologize.
And, thank you, Morgan. No, I understand those, the priority targeted, that got the majority of the votes from both the committee and the public, to which goes back to understanding, some of us understand a great deal more than the general public and other committee members on the actual source of the pollution and what actually needs to stop in regard or be mitigated so that pollution is reduced. So again, going by what was on the board, fantastic. But as long as we include the large source reduction of permitting, being that 50% of large source permits are here in South Sacramento in our CERT community, 50% in our CERT boundaries of Sacramento County. large source pollution emitters. So everybody is educated to understand what the point is. I keep trying to drive home. Thank you.
I see we have a Janice, good comment. Roberta, is that a legacy?
I forgot.
So just want to note that we do have 12 minutes left in the meeting, and I do see that we have another steering committee comment. Also want to just note that with the additional changes, we will need to revisit the motion on the new item.
Yeah. Comment.
Or we'll do the steering committee first.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so just, you know, to reinforce what you were saying, I think it's very important, the monitoring and measurements of pollution. That if we can get very serious on that and present it to the government, probably can have more help to reinforce and to move forward as soon as possible to have results. Because the government always likes us to present when we ask for help, or sometimes we don't do it. But when we present something and we have the statistics, you know, we have the proof in the hands, they're more willing to help us, you know, to reinforce us to go ahead. But if we don't have this right now, it's gonna be hard. And we're just gonna stay here planting trees and trying to do things at this our level. So we gotta get a little bit more serious and like we say, measuring, trying to find the way that we can monitor and present something serious to the government to be helped, and then we can do something. Because you know what, those permits that Barry was been talking, and not only commercial, you know, residential too, with constructions and trucks and everything coming. And then we have more and more people coming to Sacramento, you know, and we have to build more houses. We have a lot of pollution. We're talking about here, that we have a lot of trash on the streets. Or more homeless people that actually is visual pollution and et cetera, et cetera. But right now, focusing on what we're saying, I think measurements is very important. So we're gonna try to, you know, see what we can do to have something to measure what's going around here in South Sacramento, but seriously, not just, you know, cheap ones, you know, probably have to, you know, invest a little bit more, but for something that has more value for the government instead of.
Hi, good evening. I'm Amy Roberts. I'm with the district, and I just wanted to add a little more detail and numbers to what Barry was referencing. 50% of permits is actually representative of the major sources within the community. So 50%. We have 14 major sources in total. 7 of them are within the community boundaries. When you're looking and you're talking about total permits that we have issued, and that's in the 4,000 plus permits that we issue in total, 20% of all of the permits are within the boundaries of the CERB boundaries. So just to clarify.
Okay, so now we have just a lot of point of orders, apologies. So first of all, the co-leads have voted for the public comment to be closed. So public comment, unfortunately, is comment period is closed and that cannot be reopened. We did have one comment on the motion that we will read for the record. Then the co-leads can move to have the motion on the revised language for the goals. After that, the steering committees will have a brief moment for discussion if they want, and then we can go to the vote. We will not be having public comment in this period since it has already been closed. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just noting this comment was from 6:55 and the time had passed and then we forgot to circle on. So Adrian Rand had said that one potential addition for urban planning is establishing a quick build program for active transportation infrastructure in the CERB area, similar to what the city of Sacramento is advancing. He noted that this would make it safer for more people to walk and bike and reduce emissions. And once again, this public comment was intended to be read during the public comment period on the motion. And since it was an hour ago, we just forgot to read it back.
Britta, could you repeat the comment one more time? I apologize.
Yes, happy to repeat it. So Adrian Wren suggested that one potential addition for urban planning is establishing a quick build program for active transportation infrastructure in the served area, similar to what the city of Sacramento is advancing. He said that this would make it safer for more people to walk, bike, and reduce emissions. And I actually saw an infographic on this today on Instagram, so it's one of the mutual aid orgs posted about it, and there's examples, if you need what it looks like.
Thank you for that comment. The colleagues, you now can decide if you would like to advance the motion.
Yes, so I move to pass the motion to vote on the updated goals, adding in addition to urban planning under quick win goals. Sorry, I actually feel like that should be under medium-term goals, the reduction of large source pollutants. And also under quick win goals to add in not only improving transparency and community oversight of land use decisions to contribute to air pollution, as well as quick build programming for active transportation. And then also under commercial sources, adding in the reduction of large source pollutant, the reduction or limiting of large source pollutant permits.
Do we have a second? Lori Walker seconds the motion, so the motion is now passed. We now open up steering committee discussion on the motion that was just passed. Again, noting that public comment section has been closed.
Motion for you. Second. Without a vote. Unless I missed something.
We have a motion, the motion has passed. We have not had a vote on the item yet. The motion just requires a second to have the motion move forward. We're now in the comment and then we go to vote. Stop.
Okay, I just want to restate that 50% of the largest source pyramids are in the CERT. The boundaries, as Tammy just said, but something else. We have here a list of violations of AB 617 in this paper. My question is, what we've been doing about it? It's in the paper, yes, but what we've been doing about it? You know, statistics is nice, beautiful, but what we've been doing. So I think it will be good to consider that, you know, that what we already have enhanced, what we can start doing, you know, of trying to resolve it. Thank you.
And for the record, correcting Barry is correct. The motion has not passed. There's been a second on the motion. We're now in discussion. We had one comment. Do we have another comment, Richard?
I think the discussion should continue at a different time. There've been a lot of great points that have been made here today by a number of people, and I think it does call for more discussion.
And we have one more comment, or another comment.
Hi, this is Ward Winchell. So we have a long way to go on this plan. Tonight, we're just trying to decide what we're gonna focus on, these three goals, or what we're gonna focus on. I think everyone tonight has had amazing input, important details about implementation and how to get something done for the community. But tonight we need to vote on the three goals so that we can get to those details and the strategies. So I'm recommending that we vote to accept the goals tonight and then spend a lot more time, a lot more discussion on getting everybody's concerns addressed.
Thank you for that, Ward, and just to kind of second your comment and piggyback. What I don't want us to do is go through analysis paralysis, because as a whole, we won't meet again until April, which now means we'll be a month further away from actually making steps to do stuff. With these team signups that we have now, this now actually allows us to sidebar, create more tangible, smart, measurable goals. That's what that does. That allows us to now say, okay, we wanted to focus on improving transparency and community oversight. How do we do that? How can we create smart and measurable goals? So to Ward's point, that's the voting process on these particular things, it was meant to be abstract, so that way we can all come together, not only as a whole, but in these smaller groups, and that way there's no perception of us being led by whether it's the district or any officials, things like that. That way we know that this is truly coming from us, from the community, and from the input that we've got. But I do agree with moving forward with the vote. If I vote to move forward with the vote.
I cannot second that, right, but like yes, and again, we can always come back and revisit this, right? Like, this is not a done deal. We have the power to come back and make changes. More located changes now, because I want you to think about what you knew and what you felt like when you walked in and how you feel like how you feel right now. Now we have ideas, right? So with that said, we need you guys to come to the SERP next meeting. I think it's happening the first week in April. SERP is when we have these discussions. SERP is where we actually, the decisions are made there, and then here we come to vote. And that's the way we have to do it because of how long the discussions go, right? So come to the SERP. I know we're busy, but there's a reason we signed up. Okay, let's continue.
Any other, we do have another comment on this. I want to note that we are at time for the meeting. Colleagues can make a request to extend the time for discussions.
Not after this comment, I think we can move and vote. And then if we need to extend for like 5 minutes, we can do that after. Okay.
Mr. Baker, I grabbed a list that says list of violations and, as I told Jen, y'all aware of this list, right? And so you're doing everything you can do to correct it and you made the list. Okay, so that's saying you're aware and you're working hard to fix what you have on this list.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just for the record, Jennison, yes. I believe the direction was to move to the vote and close the steering committee comment section.
That's correct.
Correct. All right, you now can make, call for the vote.
Okay, so we're gonna call your name. You can either use your flag or your hand at this point. So we are now voting on, moving to adopt this guide of goals to create more tangible goals in the future within our subcommittees. So I am gonna start with Bishop Chris Baker. Yes. So the motion is to, oh, you want me to reread everything that's, okay.
I have to learn.
Say it.
Britta has the motion on the notes if you'd like her to orate.
Yeah, you know what?
The motion is to approve the SERP goals as updated by Morgan Brown.
So we are gonna start with Bishop Chris Baker.
Good.
Jamala Green. Barry Boyd,
Yeah, I can't find that flag.
is that a yes?
Yeah, it,
Yes, with that bid. Okay, Morgan Brown, yes. Lori Walker. Yes. Roberto Rizzo,
Yes.
James Allison.
Yes.
Arturo.
Very
Already done. Okay, okay. Vincent Valdez. Stephanie Williams. Tito. Serena Rodriguez. Brandon Moreno. Richard Lincoln. Ward Winchell.
Richard Falcone.
Richard Falcone.
No.
All right, with that, we have 7 yeses, 1 no, no abstains, so the motion carries. With that, we did have the colleagues make the meeting extension to 8:05. We don't have time to do our agenda item number 4, so recommending to these colleagues to either shift that to another meeting or not discuss that item, but it's your call.
Shift to our next meeting.
All right, agenda item 5, updates. Again, we are low on time, but how would you like us to address this? This is our updates.
We can at least move forward with the updates. We can move forward with the updates.
All right, agenda item 5A, outreach subcommittee. I believe this was going to be covered by Morgan.
Yeah, so as far as for our outreach subcommittee meetings, I want to announce that Jamala, thank you so much, will be assisting as head chair. I wouldn't even call her co-chair, but co-chair to the outreach committee. We also discussed the need for engagement from our steering committee members, as well as figuring out ways that we can do that. We also discussed the events that were happening this week and the past weekend. I know Megan Neighborhood Association update that's coming Wednesday, I believe. And then the Sweet Potato Festival, we had some of our committee members there. There you go. Thank you so much, Barry, Armand, and Vincent for doing that. Barry also sent an email with a list of items, and we should provide an update that the outreach committee is planning on the items that we're planning on purchasing. Just as FYI, if it's above 500, then a vote will have to be made in order to move forward with purchasing. The group also started working on putting outreach goals and short-term, medium, and long-term goals from the February meeting. Again, similar to what we're going over right now. And then that now brings it to the district, if they have any updates they'd like to provide.
Yes, I'd like to provide an update on the 5 locations that you all talked about for the portable lab. First, I'd like to let folks know that we have taken down the Fern Bacon Laboratory because they needed to do construction at the site. And so that's been stopped now. And that was announced a few months ago, I believe, in several meetings. An update on looking at the siting of the new location. We have Bowling Green Language and Science Academy. We've been in contact, and the principal says that they're open to the trailer, but this site is also under construction this summer, and power could be an issue. Southgate Veterinary, they are open to house the trailer. We are scheduled to meet with the owner on Monday, on March 31st, to walk the grounds, but again, power might be an issue. There is a city courtyard. We have contacted them. However, they had shared with us they are not going to be able to house the trailer in their main yard. The head of facilities told us that they don't have any spare power, but he did offer up the old gun range at 2140 34th Street, which is shut down, but just north of the airport. La Familia Center, which is where you are here today, we've contacted. And Karen B was going to the board to see if they were open in having the portable lab on site and has not gotten back to the district. Room in the parking lot, as you guys can see outside, is limited. And they do have, but they do have a vacant lot on the east side of 34th that potentially could be an option if we can get power to the station. Last but not least, we have the Sacramento Valley Truck Stop. We've provided a flyer to them, have called them, and we was called when visited by the employee on site and was told the district would be contacted. We have not received a call back, and the numbers that we called don't have voicemail. This is a very busy site with trucks and businesses taking place, but we are unsure how we can locate the portable lab there, even if it's a lab.
And with that, we can go to agenda item 6, new business and upcoming meetings. Don't necessarily have time for that, but it's up to you if you'd like to.
Yeah, if there's any new business or upcoming meeting topics, I do ask if it could be emailed to the entire steering committee and district staff. As long as it doesn't pertain to what we were already talking about, because we're gonna obviously have to address that anyway. But any new topics, absolutely.
Agenda item 7, public comment period's already been closed. And now I believe Roberta, you are able to go through our SoCal Clean Air Act. Or SoCal Clean Air Lauren Clapp to close the meeting, and then we'll have the district close the recording.
Oh, sorry.
Sounds like-
No, we need to do this one, sorry. There is an announcement, that in May and June, steering committee meetings, we have to reschedule Monday, May 26th, because it is a Memorial Day holiday. We have been able to secure La Familia on Monday, June 2nd. So that is what we're proposing to move the May meeting to. And then for June 23rd meeting, La Familia is not, this location is not available, but we have looked into securing Fletcher Farms.
Just before you go on, I'm sorry, I don't have to use the mic, apologies. Just before you go on, public comment has not been closed. Public comment was closed on the agenda item that we were discussing. Public comment has to be open and given the public the opportunity to speak both in public, here in person and online.
Correct point, I'm sorry, we don't have time for the public statement, I think it's up to the colleague to do so.
There is a hand raised.
We do have a hand raise online.
Go for it. All right.
Good to go. Sorry. This is Adrian Wren with Valley Vision. Just wanted to flag some new air quality monitoring that's going to be coming to the SERP boundary by way of a company called Acclima. They got a $27 million grant from CARB to do air monitoring in AB 617 communities all across the state. Valley Vision is one of the contractors selected for the area. SAC EJC was also another contractor selected for the north area. So just know that there's going to be block by block mobile monitoring happening in the area, and we want to be connecting with the steering committee, with other community members about where to do the monitoring. So there's a website that I just dropped in the chat where you can learn more, and then we're tentatively planning an event for Wednesday, April 16th at the Pinnell Center for some in-person engagement. And again, this is block by block mobile monitoring that Acclima will be doing in the SERP boundary. Thanks.
Thank you, Adrian. And then Jennifer?
Yes, thank you. Jennifer Holden, Mangan Park Neighborhood Association. I heard something about the former gun range on 34th Avenue. That's about setting up a mobile air quality monitoring device.
The portable lab.
A portable lab at that location.
That is a place that they had offered up. Yeah.
I am happy to help support that. That is in my neighborhood. I advocate for that park all the time.
We did have, apologies, the order of operations would be in person, so we do have an in-person public comment.
Thank you. I know we all want to go home. Appreciate that. First, I want to say that Adrian mentioned that we are part of the Acclima effort. We are covering Del Paso Heights, North Sacramento, Norwood area. We had a very interesting conversation where we expanded the boundaries. They're very limited in scope, so we were able to meet that. So Arturo Arroyo is going to be the lead for that one, for the team that's organizing in that part of town. Arturo is a retired MD and did a lot of work also as a physician's assistant at Kaiser. And he can pick his brain about public health issues. He can teach this stuff to all of us. So I'm glad that he's joined us. He's also the organizer that's been building the base here in all the 4 Catholic churches that surround the AB 617 community. So we're very happy to have him here. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment. Right, if not, then either Morgan or Roberto, you are able to do South Sac Florin clap to officially adjourn our meeting
announcement.
and close the meeting. Ahead of that, we need to make an announcement that this Thursday. Go ahead.
Yes, we didn't get to this item because we had to move it. But we are having virtual office hours. You all have received a invite to a virtual office hour last week to answer any questions that you have. You all have received a lot of things in your packet in terms of follow-ups of compliance information, violations, questions you had from businesses. So we are, can you go to the virtual office hour slide? So I am encouraging folks when you have taken a look at that information, we will be available, from 6 to 7:30 this Thursday to answer any specific questions, and we'll probably go through an overview. But one thing I will note is that if people do not show up by 6:15, we will close office hours. And that's to, help make make the most use of, staff time.
Thank you for that. And I'll be with you all night if I could, but I just want to make sure we honor the timelines. So go ahead, with the program.
Okay. Last call, everybody. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I know we're past 8 PM, but what do we want? Right.
Right, meeting is adjourned at 8:13, directly. You just need the time of the closure.